So far, the 2024 NBA offseason has gotten off to a very entertaining start. We've seen the Oklahoma City Thunder trade Josh Giddey and receive Alex Caruso from the Chicago Bulls. We've also seen the New York Knicks make a big-time move, trading for Mikal Bridges. And now the New Orleans Pelicans have joined in on the fun as they have acquired all-star guard DeJounte Murray from the Atlanta Hawks. And in order to obtain DeJounte Murray, they sent away Dyson Daniels, Larry Nance Jr., and 2 future first-round picks. And we look at the situation of the New Orleans Pelicans. In my opinion, I think it's a very delicate situation because we've seen the Pelicans, since they've acquired CJ McCullum over these last couple of years, we see when this team is fully healthy, or when they have 2 out of the 3 players out of Brandon Ingram, CJ McCullum, and Zion Williamson, when they have at least 2 of those guys out there on the court consistently, they're still one of the better teams in the Western Conference. And we saw that same situation last year with the New Orleans Pelicans when they were fully healthy. They were towards the top of the Western Conference, and then at the worst possible time, an injury happens to Zion Williamson, and they fall to the play-in tournament where they had to be the 8th seed and face a really good Oklahoma City Thunder team in the first round of the playoffs without Zion Williamson. So it's kind of a weird situation for the New Orleans Pelicans because the talent has been there, but not the health. And in the postseason press conference, GM Adrian Griffin, he said that the team, and I'm paraphrasing here, he said that the team, they're getting off that wave of continuity. They're not going to wait for the team he said he's not going to wait for these guys to get fully healthy anymore. He's going to be aggressive this offseason, and he's going to try to improve the roster. So this is the first major move of the New Orleans Pelicans so far this offseason. And looking at the current roster, I think there's still a lot of work to be done. We're going to get to that later in the video. But before we get into that, let's talk about the type of player that the New Orleans Pelicans are getting with all-star guard DeJounte Murray. And DeJounte Murray is coming off a pretty solid season with the Atlanta Hawks, an all-star caliber season, in my opinion. If you look at the numbers, 22.5 points per game to go along with 6 assists, 5 rebounds while shooting 45% from the field and 36% from the three-point line. So a pretty solid season from DeJounte Murray. And we look at him as a basketball player. He's a guard that you would love to have in today's game. He has terrific size. I believe DeJounte Murray is like 6'5", 6'6". He has very long arms. I don't know his wingspan off the top of my head, but you can look at DeJounte Murray and you can see that he has some really long arms. And what DeJounte Murray is known for is his prowess on the defensive side of the ball. He's a really good point of attack defender. He does a great job of guarding the opposing team's best playmaker. He reaches a lot. He gets a lot of steals on the ball, off the ball. He can contest at the rim. He can contest shots on the perimeter. So he's a very solid defender, especially for the trend for the trend that the direction of the trend that the NBA is heading in right now. DeJounte Murray is a really solid defender, and then so that's what he came into this league as. That's what he came into the NBA known for, his defense, and since he's gotten into the league, his days with the Spurs, coming into the Hawks, he's just gotten so much better as an offensive player, as a scorer, especially as a three-point shooter. You look at DeJounte Murray, since he's come into the league, every year he's raised his three-point percentage just a little bit. Like we said, this season, 36% from 3. I was doing some reading, and he knocked down 39% of his threes on catch-and-shoot threes. So that's something to consider when you have players like Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram for right now, CJ McCullum for right now. The New Orleans Pelicans will want everybody to be able to knock down a catch and shoot 3. But he's so much more than that offensively. He's a point guard. Kind of had to play off the ball a little bit with Trae Young in Atlanta, so that's why his assist numbers are down. But if he's your full-time point guard, DeJounte Murray could average you at least eight assists per game if he's that full-time playmaker for your team. So he's an outstanding playmaker. He can read a defense. He can set up his teammates for easy looks. And then also he can score the basketball in one-on-one situations, in pick-and-roll situations from all 3 levels. So the New Orleans Pelicans, they're adding for the roster that they already had, the talent that they already had, being able to get DeJounte Murray was a pretty good pickup for the New Orleans Pelicans. And so now that we've established that DeJounte Murray, he's a really good pickup for the New Orleans Pelicans in terms of his age, 27 years old, his skill set, really good basketball player, and I believe he's under contract for the next 3 years for a total of $82 million. So early in the video, I know I said the New Orleans Pelicans, they have a lot of work to do for their roster. That's a bit of an exaggeration, but they definitely still have some things to figure out. And while I was reading about this trade, I saw a lot of things about Brandon Ingram and his situation with the New Orleans Pelicans, and also a lot of things about the front court situation of the New Orleans Pelicans. So looking at this trade, the New Orleans Pelicans, they traded away Larry Nance Jr. and also I read that Jonas Valanciunas, there's a big chance that he's going to become an unrestricted free agent this weekend. And those are really the only two centers on the New Orleans Pelicans, or the two centers that was in the rotation for the Pelicans. Larry Nance Jr., he's a guy that's played in some big time games and pivotal moments for the New Orleans Pelicans. You go back to 2022 in that series against the Phoenix Suns. I think that was one of the more underrated playoff series that we've had these last few years. Very entertaining. But nonetheless, Larry Nance Jr., he played pivotal roles in playoff series like that. Played a pivotal role in the playoff series this year. So losing him, a rotational piece, that could be something that the New Orleans Pelicans, that might hurt them. And then also if Jonas Valanciunas, if he ends up on another team, now the New Orleans Pelicans don't have really no depth at the center position. So and what I was reading online, that's what all these articles was connecting with Brandon Ingram, using Brandon Ingram as a trade token to bring in some depth at the front court. And me personally, with my personal opinion on that, I wouldn't be so quick to trade Brandon Ingram. I know he's in the final year of his contract. He's looking for a max extension, and I know that the New Orleans Pelicans, as of right now, is hesitant on it. And I can understand it from their point of view, with his health issues over these last few years, and then also I know the performance against the Oklahoma City Thunder didn't look that well. But I with things like that, I like to look at things with context, and I know this goes back into what I just said about health, but going up into the playoffs, forgot to mention this earlier in the video as well, but Brandon Ingram, he was banged up towards the end of the season too. That led to the New Orleans Pelicans dropping in the seeding. And I believe Brandon Ingram, I want to say he came back with maybe 2 weeks, maybe 1 week left in the regular season. Had to go up against the Oklahoma City Thunder in the first round of the playoffs. A top 5 defense, one of the best perimeter defenders in the league, in Lou Dort. And like we said, CJ McCullum is kind of having a decline in his offensive game. So it wasn't just a good situation for Brandon Ingram. It would have been hard for any superstar without their sidekick in that situation. So I think it's fair that he didn't have the greatest series against the Oklahoma City Thunder. And I know a lot of people might feel differently. If it came down to me in this situation, I would explore trying to get a trade for CJ McCollum. If it comes down to making a trade to one of these valuable guys in order to bring in some front court depth, I would try to trade CJ McCollum. And like we just said, he might not be as valuable as Brandon Ingram, because we did see a little bit of decline in CJ McCollum last season. He wasn't able to carry as big as a load that we've seen him carry over the last couple of years. But I would try to keep Brandon Ingram. I'm a huge believer in Brandon Ingram. Seen him rise to high levels in the playoffs. I think this year he just didn't have enough time to ramp up, get back into game shape, get back into a rhythm, and especially to go into a situation like that against the Oklahoma City Thunder. But nonetheless, there is still the possibility of the New Orleans Pelicans. They could keep all 4 of these guys when it comes to McCullum, DeJounte Murray, Zion Williamson, and Brandon Ingram, and they could try to find some cheap options at the center position. I just know that center position, the deeper you get into the season, playoffs, NBA Finals, that 5 position becomes it becomes very, very important. So it's just something to keep an eye on. It's definitely, that's why I said the New Orleans Pelicans, this is just their first move of the offseason. I don't think they're done yet. Like we said, Adrian Griffin said he's going to be aggressive this offseason. So it's going to be very, very, very entertaining. But this is a really good pickup for the New Orleans Pelicans. I think they get better offensively. DeJounte Murray, he's way more of a natural playmaker than anybody else on the New Orleans Pelicans. And then also, I forgot to mention this. Could you imagine DeJounte Murray and Herb Jones on the same court defensively? You have Trey Murphy, who continues to get better on the defensive side of the ball. He's 6'10", very athletic. Brandon Ingram, for right now, is still a member of the New Orleans Pelicans. He's a solid defender when he wants to be. So this is really interesting with the New Orleans Pelicans, and I'm really intrigued to see what their next move is going to be and what their roster is going to be going into the 2024-2025 NBA season. But that's what I want to go over with you guys today. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment down below. What direction do you think the Pelicans are going to go in? Is Brandon Ingram going to be a Pelican at the beginning of the season? Is CJ McCullum going to be a Pel at the beginning of the season? Let me know what you think down in the comment section, and then subscribe for more weekly content. We're about to get a lot more active on the channel, so please subscribe so you don't miss anything. And that's curtains.